This is our first talk here for nearly a year and a half. So as I was preparing for this talk, I came across this message or statement from Descending. He was a late Korean Sun master. And he said, if you wish to thoroughly understand all Buddhas of the past, present, and future, then you should view the nature of the whole universe as being created by mind alone. By mind, by only mind, or mind alone. And this caught my attention. And we've been speaking about this for many, many times. Mind alone in Japanese is called yushin. Now, why do they say mind alone? No, this is very important. And if you remember, I read Vasubandhu's 30 verses about mind alone many times. But my question this time was, why was it called mind alone? Or it could also be consciousness alone. And this is very interesting. So in his 30 verses, it's written in the last few lines. Actually, he introduces it as his title of the 30 verses is very interesting. The 30 verses on the teachings of mere manifestation. So mere manifestation has a relative sense and an absolute sense. What most of you people see is mere manifestation as appearance. That's all you see. But in studying the Dharma, we see the same thing you see, but in a very different way. That's where we say mind alone. Mere manifestation could mean appearance, or it could mean things as it is. That's a big difference. So most of the world, maybe 80%, 90% of the entire world sees appearances as objects outside of themselves. And that's how they live, and that's how they die. So going to, skipping to verse 27. Oh, even before I start these verses, here's that word again, apophatic. Apophatic means it's via negativity. So in studying, we have to see things not just in the light, but we have to see things in the dark side, because that's what's left out in our study, in our traditions, in our school, in our cultures. And so it says like via negativity, meaning letting go. And you've heard this word over 1,000 million times, letting go. And I put down release. And the other two things would be forgetting the self, when actually you become selfless because you're involved in the activity in front of you. The self-centered self is not there. In fact, this is not just the self-centered self, but it means the profundity of this self is that this self is connected to the entire cosmos, not just psychologically, but your relationship to the universe is not what it should be. It's not what it is. So forgetting the self, and the other explanation was emptying the mind. And so emptying the idea of the mind. And as Uchiyama Roshi explained it, and actually he, in the study group, he explained it page after page after page. The Buddha Dharma, the dictionary meaning of the Buddha Dharma means, Buddha means awake, Dharma means universe or truth, awaken to the truth. But Uchiyama Roshi explains it as the process before thinking, before discrimination. That's the Buddha Dharma. And that is apophatic. And you could say all these three, letting go or release, forgetting or emptying the mind, just relax. that's a simple word that when we're trying to do something and when you relax, all of a sudden your breath is on the exhalation. You're letting it go through the breath and your body becomes supple and soft. Relax. This is the apophatic. I wrote down here a few things. Like there was, I'll repeat this again. There was an eclipse maybe about a month ago. And to enjoy the eclipse is caused by the shadow of the earth. The shadow. So as the shadow is passing and finally completely in front of the moon, the shadow of the earth is causing this beautiful pink peony color. The shadow caused it. And I wrote down bees. The activity in working with bees, what I learned here by watching is that the beekeeper smokes herself. When you smoke the bees to make them peaceful, they become angry. But we smoke ourselves. It's the opposite. Because those bees are ourself also. We smoke the bees. There are two things I just wanted to mention. Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, when Lady Diana took him, when they were in Spain, she took him to see dressage, where they are trained, horses are trained as well as the riders trained. And when he saw that, Trungpa began crying. Why did he cry? Because the rider was doing exactly the same thing that we do in practice of forgetting the self, of emptying the mind. The rider, he or she became one with the horse. So the saying is, above the saddle, no rider, below the saddle, no horse. And so the riders are trained this way, but also for a different purpose. So he cried because I think it's the spontaneous outburst of joy or empathy that he knows that the relationship of realization of the radiant nature of reality is possible with every living being. That's the joy and the spontaneous empathy. somehow I wrote this other thing about the late De Sansoni. I had breakfast with him many times, and all he did was just eat. He didn't talk, and he ate really fast. And one of the many breakfasts, and it was difficult for me because I didn't feel maybe worthy. I didn't feel confident, but I went anyway. I was intimidated, but I went anyway. And one breakfast in his room, I looked at my tea bowl, and there were 6 standing tea leaves, and that's a miracle. So I said, "Desan, come here, look at my bowl. There's 6 standing tea leaves. That's almost, it can't happen over in one kalpa. It couldn't have happened." And he looked at it and he just walked away. It's not Dharma. It's a kind of superstition. I don't know, like when I was young, uh, a young boy, we had the idea of a rabbit's foot. It may seem funny to you now, but they sold them, and they were on chains, and we put it on our belt, and that was good luck. I don't know what it is now for young people. The iPhone, if it's a symbol of good luck, but the astrology, uh, the rabbit's foot, the iPhone, these are all like the tea leaves, standing tea leaves. They're not worth anything in this sense, in the absolute sense. They have their function, but in the absolute sense, they are unworthy because there's something much more worthy than those objects. So coming back to Vasubandhu's mere manifestation, and this is verse 27. First something about Vasubandhu. His Japanese name is Sechin, and meaning his name is intimacy with the world, the oneness with the world. And actually, Vasubandhu, our Indian ancestor, was born 4th or maybe 5th century. And he is the most influential author, practitioner in the history of the Buddha Dharma. So we should know what he left for us, what he realized. And in those days, when he wrote this, it was like his reality, and he presented it to the community, and the community challenged him. So he was not just an author or writer or thinker, but he was a practitioner. So here we go. This is the first Sech in 27th verse. Although there may be perception, all this is mere manifestation, because this still involves an object of perception, which is in front of it and does not really dwell in mere that. Mere that is as it is, because there's an object of perception. 28. Because an object of perception, there's an object of consciousness. 28. But when mind no longer grasps an object as consciousness, it will stop at mere consciousness, at mere mind. And that's why they call it mind only or consciousness only. because there's no object to grasp, and there's no longer any more grasping. Grasping to the objective world, there's no more attachment, and there's no more avoiding. So in your zazen practice, I mentioned this term before, toji. Toji means everything becomes impartial or equal. The wall is just the wall. The floor is just the floor. The computer is just the computer. There's no comparison. Everything has equal value. And so when this happens, your skandhas, your 5, 6 skandhas are suspended. And being suspended means that there's no self. You are liberated in that moment. This is non-doing. Non-doing means there's no self. This is what's happening in your zazen. So when the mind no longer grasps an object, because it's stopped at consciousness only. It's stopped at mind only. It will stop mere consciousness, for without any object to grasp, there is no longer any grasping. You're free. You are liberated. 29. It is without this mind, consciousness only, mind only, yushin. This mind is without discrimination. Just like Uchiyama Roshi was saying over and over and over again, prior to discrimination, prior to thinking. No longer has an object of consciousness. It will stop at mere consciousness without any object to grasp. There is no longer any more grasping. 29. This mind only, is without discrimination, and it's even without attainment. That the wisdom operates when double incapacity is abandoned. When the subject and object is abandoned, the transformation at the base is realized. You're liberated. And this is the realm of non-setback. Inconceivably beneficial, stable bliss, the body of liberation called the Dharma body, Dharmakaya, of the great sage Shakyamuni. So, it's interesting. I've been speaking about this for these verses for many, many years, and each time it feels closer. So I think one of the important things is I'm beginning to speak about breathing. We have to know how to breathe. And I came across this years ago, Yasen Kana by Hakuin. And in those days, when Zen students or monks practiced, they threw themselves into the practice. They didn't eat, they didn't sleep, and eventually all the energy went up, and they got what they call a Zen sickness. And actually, I should read some of this, the notes to you about it, because there's a lot of history and tradition that's behind his writing. This is the, oh, Yasinkana, the title means idle talk on a night boat. And it's referring to some person from a small village that claimed that he was able to sail on this particular river and reach Kyoto. And he saw the city. And so the villagers were really impressed with, because no one had done that in that village. And they kind of asked him, uh, and in his grandeur, he explained, and a little bit apologetic, that it was at nighttime and he couldn't see that well. But actually, the river turned out to be a creek, a very dry creek. If one of you superior religious seekers who are vigorously engaged at Zen training finds that his or her heart fire is mounting upward against natural flow, draining them physically and mentally, and upsetting the proper balance of the five organs. They may attempt to correct this condition by means of acupuncture, moxibustion, or medicines. But even if he could enlist the aid of the physician as illustrious as Wao To Pian Chu Sang Kung, he would find it impossible to cure himself. And Hakuin says, I possess a secret technique, because this happened to him. He got the Zen sickness. I possess a secret technique perfected by the divine sages for returning the elixir to the ocean of vital energy below the navel. And this vital energy refers to the secret method by Taoists, alchemists, who refine the cinnabar to obtain the pure elixir. This place is also called, the Tanden is called the cinnabar field. And a Taoist alchemist, Ko Huang Pao Pu, he said, if you consume elixir, tune or turn 9 times, you will in 3 days time become an immortal. So Kikai and Tanden, the Tanden is the cinnabar field located 2 inches below the navel. The Kikai is the ocean of vital energy, an inch and a half. They're kind of synonymous with each other. Kikai. And so this is like a introspection meditation, but also it's not just to heal yourself, but also to solve or deepen the profundity of what Zazen is. And you will see later as I keep on reading. And Hakuin said, once you undertake to practice this secret technique, oh, Actually, the Zen sickness was called con- consummation, which was tuberculosis in those days. But he cured himself. So he's revealing how he did it. Once you undertake to practice this secret technique, you should, for the time being, cease your practice of Zazen and set aside your koan study. First of all, it is important that you get a good sound sleep. Before you close your eyes, lie on your back with your legs straight together. Stretch them out straight, pushing down as hard as you can on the arches of your feet, heel and arches. Then draw your primal energy down into the cinnabar field so that it fills the lower body, the space between the navel, down through the lower back of the legs and to the arches of the feet. Down into the cinnabar field so that it fills the lower back. I'm sorry, the lower body first. The space below the navel, down through the lower back, the legs, and to the arches of the feet. Periodically repeat the following thoughts: the back, legs, arches of the feet. It is all my true and original face. How does the original face have nostrils? This is great. This is Hakuin. How can my original true face have nostrils? And he enlists 5 of them, 4, but then he adds another one, and they're all very interesting. 2, the cinnabar field located in the ocean of vital energy, the Kikai, the lower back, the legs, and the arches of the feet. It is all the home and native place of my original being. Native home and native place really, well, it really touches me. I don't know how you feel about it, but where you came from. Native place is old fashioned, but it has a sense deeply profound. It touches me, your native place. It is all the home and native place of my original being. And here's his koan. What news or tidings comes from that native place? So these verses and questions keep you in the repetition of this practice. 3, the cinnabar field located again in the Kikai, the ocean of vital energy, the lower back, legs, arches of the feet. It is all the pure land of my own mind. How could the splendors of that pure land exist from my mind? Let's see, I had a note here. The pure land of the mind. Yu Xin means mind only. And Norman Waddell maybe made a mistake here, but in his translation, the pure land of the mind, Yu Xin Jodo. And actually, the Pure Land or the Jodo school is what my uh, older sister goes to. And they have a practice, but it's become too socially integrated. They've lost their practice. And so here it is again, Yu Xin, Mind only, Pure Land. Okay? The Pure Land Sutra states that Amida Buddha resides in the West. 100 billion Buddhas lands distant from here. The Amida Buddha and that Amida Pure Land exists within your own mind. And actually, Amida Buddha, Amit means light, an infinite light, and it became very popular because with extreme or deep conviction, if you repeated Namu Amida Butsu, taking refuge in the Buddha during your lifetime, and especially when just before you die, you will enter into the Pure Land. So they have that kind of mantra they use. Amida Buddha. So when I saw that in his writing here, I began to have more respect for Amida Buddha, Amitabha. In fact, I just noticed that in the tanka we have in the living room, there's Amida Buddhas on the top. And in the front is Kanzeon. And also it could be the Dalai Lama, who's the emanation of Amida Buddha's infinite light. And number 4, the Tanden or Cinnabar field, located in the ocean, the Kikai of vital energy. It is all Amida Buddha of my own self. How could Amida Buddha preach Dharma apart from this self? And finally, the last one. The last one is the Cinnabar field, the Tanden, located in the ocean of vital energy, the lower back, legs, arches of the feet. It is all Chow Chow's mu. What principle can this mu possibly have? So these are the 5 verses and the 5 koans as you begin practicing that. And it's interesting, if you practice that, maybe if you're not lying down, probably is the best. But if you don't, you could adapt it to wherever you are. And but when you start breathing through there, you'll gain a lot of energy that you never had before. Gain energy and spirit. In fact, the primal energy is called Genki. Gen like Dogen, begin. And ki is spirit or energy. And the Japanese language, they have Genki desu, how are you? But it means primal energy in the olden times. It was worn down all that way to how are you? But Genki means primal energy. How's your primal energy? So I'll continue next time to continue doing the reading of Yasakana.